You could walk into a hi-fi shop today, point at a glass case full of gear with four-figure price tags, and then go home and order something off Amazon for under $100 that quietly outperforms half of it. The catch is, you would never know, because the algorithm buried it between Bluetooth party speakers and RGB gaming soundbars. The best-sounding budget gear on Amazon right now comes from brands most people scroll right past. Names that look unfamiliar. Boxes that look too cheap to be serious. Price tags that trigger suspicion instead of excitement. And the reason people ignore them says everything about how audio marketing still works. We are trained to trust logos and price tags instead of transformers and measurements. The snobbery is the same one that existed in 1978. It just moved online. If you care about sound quality more than brand prestige, stick around. By the end of this, you will know exactly which 7 overlooked products punch absurdly above their price. What makes each one genuinely good? Not good for the money, but genuinely good. And the specific buying traps to avoid along the way. We are counting down from 7 to 1, and each one hits harder than the last. Let's get into it. Number 7. The Art DJ Pre 2. The name alone kills it. People shopping for a turntable preamp see the letters DJ and keep scrolling because they assume this is club gear, not audiophile gear. That assumption is costing them hundreds of dollars. For around $50, you get a phono preamp with RIAA accurate circuitry, an all-aluminum chassis, switchable input capacitance, a low-cut rumble filter, and a front panel gain trim. Those are features that dedicated audiophile phono stages at $200 do not always include. Popular Science named it the best budget phono preamp 3 years running. The measurement community tore it apart and confirmed the performance is real. And yet it still sits on Amazon with a fraction of the reviews that overpriced competitors enjoy because the branding does not whisper vintage warmth and analog soul. It whispers DJ booth. Here is the lesson buried in that. 2 letters on a faceplate are doing more damage to this product's sales than any actual flaw in the hardware. The badge prejudice is alive and well. It just moved from the stereo shop to the search results page. If a mislabeled phono preamp surprises you, the next one is going to feel like a ghost story from a brand that barely exists in public consciousness. Number 6. The NUMI BS5. Pull up the Amazon listing and the first thing you notice is a name you have never seen in any store, any magazine, any advertisement, anywhere. NUMI has essentially zero brand recognition. And yet someone inside that company built a pair of bookshelf speakers with a 5-inch fiberglass woofer, a silk dome tweeter mounted in a proper waveguide, a front-ported cabinet so you can push them flat against a wall without destroying the base, and rounded baffle edges to reduce diffraction. Those are not budget shortcuts. Those are real engineering decisions. They even included a manual with actual speaker placement guidance, which at this price point is almost unheard of. Independent measurements confirmed what the spec sheet promised. The tuning is genuinely neutral. No hyped bass to impress you in the first 10 seconds. No sizzling treble to fake detail. Just balanced, honest sound from a company nobody has heard of. And that is the entire point. The details you cannot see in a product photo are doing all the real work. The waveguide, the port position, the baffle shaping. Judge the hardware, never the badge. Good speakers need a clean signal, and the next product delivers one for less than a decent dinner out. Number 5. The Topping E32 Lite. Most people have no idea they need a dedicated DAC. They do not even know what one does. And that single gap in understanding is quietly sabotaging every other upgrade they make. Here is what is actually happening. Every digital audio source you own, your laptop, your TV, your phone, has a tiny chip inside, converting digital files into an analog signal. That chip was chosen by an engineer who had a budget of about $2 and a list of 1,000 other components that also needed to fit on the board. It was never the priority. The Topping E32 Lite replaces that afterthought with a dedicated AK4493S DAC chip, USB, and optical and coaxial inputs. Support for high-resolution formats most people do not even know exist yet. and an OLED display in a box barely bigger than a deck of cards. It costs around $100. It measures so cleanly that it embarrasses DACs at several times the price on distortion and dynamic range. And the name topping means absolutely nothing to the average shopper, which is exactly why it gets buried. In the measurement community, topping has been punching at reference level for years. The improvement when you plug one in is not subtle. It is the kind of difference that makes people look at their speakers and wonder what changed. Nothing changed. You just stopped poisoning the signal before it got there. You have a clean signal. You have speakers. Now you need something to drive them, and the next product looks like it should not be able to do what it does. Number 4, the iYima, a 07. It is the size of a paperback book. It weighs barely 2 pounds. It costs about $70. And it is built around the same Texas Instruments TPA3255 amplifier chip that powers gear selling at many times the price. That chip does not care what box it sits inside. It performs to its specification whether the chassis costs $7 or $700. The A07 delivers real measured power into real speakers with distortion low enough that most human ears will never detect it. But here is the detail that should make you pause. The op-amps are socketed. That means you can physically pull them out and swap in higher grade replacements with your fingers. At $70. That is a feature you find on gear marketed to hobbyists and tinkerers who actually understand what is inside their equipment, and it has no business being at this price point. The cult following on Reddit and the audio forums is enormous, and it did not come from advertising because there is no advertising. It came from people plugging it in, hearing what it did, and telling everyone they knew. Here is the watchdog takeaway. What brands used to charge you for, clean, powerful amplification, has been miniaturized onto a chip that costs a few dollars. The companies charging 5 times more for the same silicon are selling you a logo and a story. The iYima is selling you the chip and getting out of the way. If the A07 is pure muscle in a tiny box, the next product is the opposite problem. Speakers that look and feel far more expensive than they have any right to be. Number 3, the Mika RB42. Pick one up, and the first thing that registers is the cabinet. Dark walnut curves, no sharp edges, no cheap vinyl wrap peeling at the corners. It looks like something that belongs in a showroom next to speakers costing $400 or $500. Then you flip it around and find real binding posts on the back. Then you open it up and find a 10-element crossover using film capacitors and air core coils at roughly $150 a pair. That crossover is the part the watchdog in me cannot let go of. A crossover is where the manufacturer decides how much they actually care about the sound versus how much they care about the margin. Most companies at this price solder in the cheapest 2 or 3 components they can source and move on. Mika built a 10-element network that would not embarrass a speaker at 3 times the cost, and the result is a bass response that defies the tiny 4-inch woofer. Every single review mentions it. The low end has no business being this full from a cabinet this small, and yet there it is. The RB42 is the modern version of the forgotten Radio Shack receiver, the product from the overlooked brand that quietly embarrasses the prestige names. People see Mika and think budget throwaway. People who have actually listened know better. Every product so far solves one piece of the chain. The next one tries to replace the entire chain with a single box, and the terrifying part is how close it gets. Number 2, the Loxg A30, DAC, Bluetooth receiver, headphone amplifier, speaker amplifier, subwoofer output, tone controls, remote control. All of that lives inside a box smaller than a hardback book for around $170. The amplifier runs on an Infineon MA12070 chip. The DAC uses an ESS ES9023. Bluetooth comes in through a Qualcomm chipset with aptX support. The USB input handles high-resolution audio up to 32-bit at 384 kHz. There is a proper 6.35mm headphone jack on the front, and the volume and tone shaping run through an NJW194 electronic control that lets you adjust bass and treble without degrading the signal path when you switch it out. The hi-fi industry has spent decades telling you that every link in the chain needs to be a separate box from a separate specialist brand. And at the very top, that is true. But for someone building their first real system, the Loxg A30 eliminates the most paralyzing part of the hobby: not knowing where to start. One box, one purchase. Plug in a pair of speakers, and you are listening to music. The snobs will hate it. The person who actually starts listening to music because of it will not care. That person was always the point. And now, number one. The single product that may have done more to prove that budget hi-fi is no longer a contradiction in terms than anything else you can order with a Prime membership. Number one, the Fosi Audiophile 3. This is the one that changed the math. A small company out of Shenzhen launched a Kickstarter for a compact stereo amplifier, shipped it, and then watched as independent testers published measurements that made the entire audio community stop scrolling. SINED of 88 decibels. Total harmonic distortion at or below 0.003%. Signal-to-noise ratio above 110 decibels. Those are not budget numbers. Those are numbers that approach transparent amplification, the point where the amp itself essentially disappears, and your speakers are hearing the pure signal with nothing added and nothing taken away. The chassis is all aluminum. There is no flex, no rattle, no hollow, cheap resonance when you tap it. The volume knob is logarithmic instead of linear, which means it adjusts the way your ears actually perceive loudness rather than jumping in crude steps. Fosi even includes two interchangeable knobs in the box, a black one and an orange one, a tiny detail. But it is the kind of tiny detail that tells you someone on the design team actually cared about the experience of owning this thing, not just the spec sheet. It costs around $89, less than a single decent interconnect cable from a boutique brand, less than the markup on most amplifiers that use the exact same TPA3255 chip inside a fancier enclosure. The Fosi 5.3 is this generation's answer to a very old question. What happens when a company stops spending money on marketing and puts it all into the hardware instead? This is what happens. An $89 box that the measurements say is essentially transparent. No legacy, no prestige, no advertising budget, just data and a product that lives up to it. 7 products, all on Amazon right now, most of them from brands that a typical shopper would scroll right past without a second thought. And yet every single one delivers performance that would have been considered genuinely high-end a generation ago, for the price of a modest dinner for 2. The badge on the front still tells you almost nothing about what is inside. The price tag is still not a reliable measure of quality. And the only people consistently finding the gold mines are the ones willing to ignore the marketing and read the measurements. The expensive gear is not going anywhere, but the gap between what it costs and what it actually delivers has never been wider. The gear has never been more accessible. The only thing still expensive is the snobbery.